The night was thick with an eerie silence as Jason's car cruised along the desolate road, surrounded by dense woods. Rain tapped rhythmically on the windshield, creating a symphony of its own. Jason had heard the stories, the legends about this road being haunted, but he dismissed them as mere superstitions. He was a man of science, after all. As he drove deeper into the heart of the forest, the road seemed to stretch on endlessly, the trees leaning ominously over it like silent sentinels. Suddenly his headlights flickered and the car's engine sputtered. An involuntary shiver ran down his spine as the car came to a stop, engulfing him in complete darkness. "Come on, not now," he muttered, frustration mixing with a growing sense of unease. Jason grabbed his phone to call for help, but to his dismay there was no signal. He was alone, stranded in the heart of the haunted forest. Resigning himself to his fate, Jason stepped out of the car and looked around, his flashlight cutting through the inky blackness. He could barely see a few feet ahead, the trees casting long, gnarled shadows that danced like specters in the rain. As he walked, he heard faint whispers carried by the wind, like voices just beyond his hearing. Every now and then, he caught glimpses of movement at the edge of his vision, but when he turned to look, there was nothing there. A chilling realization began to take hold. He might not be alone on this road. Despite his rational mind's protests, fear coiled in his chest, urging him to run. But where would he run to? The forest seemed to close in on him, its very air heavy with an otherworldly presence. He quickened his pace, his footsteps echoing eerily. Then a figure materialized ahead, a woman in a tattered white gown. Her skin was an unnatural pale hue, and her eyes were empty voids, devoid of life. She stood by a dilapidated crossroads sign, pointing down a path with long, skeletal fingers. Jason's heart pounded in his chest as he approached cautiously. "Hello? Are you okay?" he stammered, his voice quivering. The woman's head turned slowly to face him, her gaze piercing through him. In a voice that seemed to come from all directions at once, she whispered, "Leave, before they come." "Who? What do you mean?" Jason asked, his voice trembling. But the woman's form began to dissipate, vanishing like mist in the wind. Panic surged within Jason as he stumbled backward, his flashlight falling to the ground and casting wild shadows around him. A chorus of distant whispers grew louder, circling him like vultures closing in on their prey. Shapes moved in the darkness, flickering in and out of existence. The air grew colder, and the rain turned into a torrential downpour. Suddenly the whispers converged into a cacophony of anguished cries and mournful wails. Shadows coalesced into ghastly forms that reached out toward him with spectral hands. Jason's breath came in ragged gasps as he turned and ran, his footsteps splashing through puddles and mud. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs ached, until the road opened up into a clearing. He looked back, but the horrors from the forest had not followed him. He was alone, soaked and shaken to his core. Jason's car started with a reluctant cough when he turned the key, and he wasted no time in fleeing the cursed road. As the forest faded into the rearview mirror, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had narrowly escaped something malevolent, something that lurked just beyond the edge of reality. To this day, Jason refuses to speak about that night. He avoids that road like the plague, haunted by the memory of those whispered voices and the ghastly figures that prowled the darkness. And if you ever find yourself driving through those woods on a rainy night, keep an eye out for the dilapidated crossroads sign. But whatever you do, don't stop.